Welcome back, everyone. Look at me dancing and
I know.
stuff to another episode of Navigating Life After 40. I'm your host, Roni, and I am here with Roni. It's Roni and Rhoni. Hey, Roni and Rhoni. And so for this episode, it is entitled the Midlife Besties Hangout. And so this is a new, just kind of extension to what I do with Navigating Life After 40, where I have myself and a co host here. And right now it's going to be me and my friend Roni. You guys have met her before in a previous episode, and you really enjoyed having her here. I got the feedback from you all, like in the DMs. I saw the numbers, and it was amazing. And so, what we're going to do, this is our first one kicking off, and eventually we're going to start moving this over and going live on YouTube. And so we'll talk about some of the latest trends and midlife. We'll talk about hot topics, all of those things, but things that impact us at this time as women during this time. Hi, Ronnie. I'm just talking. Hi, Ronnie.
It's all good. Hey, you had to give the people what they wanted, and that was an introduction, okay?
Yes, introduction. Yes. And so, yeah, we will definitely. I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to like the Midlife Besties Hangout. As you can see, if you are watching this on the recorded YouTube, we have on our shirts the Midlife Besties. And so I wanted to wear my pink one today too. And I was like, did I get another one? I ended up having the one that was too big. So
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think yeah, I need to get the other one. So I still have a few left. And also, at some point, these teas will be on the site for sale. So be on the lookout for that, probably right after the first of the year.
Facts.
Also,
Make
you
sure you
guys
get your
always,
merchandise. I was gonna say,
yes,
make sure you get
get
your merchandise,
merch.
okay? So that you can be in
Yeah.
here when we do go live with the Midlife Bestie Hangout. You can wear your merch while you're hanging out with us.
Yes, while you're hanging out with us. That is awesome. And there'll also be mugs and everything like that. So you can be kind of sipping with us as you're watching. Because y'all know me, I drink my cup of mushroom coffee.
Yep.
Mm,
I had mine earlier.
so-
I ain't got no cup today right now because I had mine earlier.
Yeah, so we'll have that. And yeah, the mushroom coffee. For those of you who do not know, I do drink mushroom coffee. Sometimes people are like, what is in your cup when you are on those videos? And it is mushroom coffee. And I do use the one by Rise. I will also post the link below so you guys can see it. And also on audio, if you're listening, I will post a link in the show notes so that you can also test that out. But what it does is it kind of helps me to focus and it gives me the boost of energy that I need. As someone who is perimenopausal and hypothyroidism, I get hit with a double whammy of brain fog that is really bad sometimes. And this really helps me. So I invite you to try it out. I like it. I don't add anything to it other than maybe collagen sometimes. And so far, so good.
Yeah, I do
All
the same.
right.
Collagen powder, the collagen creamer is really good. I tried the
Mm-hmm.
chocolate one and I love it. I used to have the vanilla all the time and I was like, let me just try this chocolate one. I get the one from Walmart. I don't do nothing special. But that collagen
Yeah.
powder is a very good addition to the mushroom coffee.
Yeah, and we definitely need collagen during this time because we need it for our bones. It helps with our skin, all that good stuff. And also, if you are, for those of you watching and or listening, if you are interested in collagen and wanting to try it out, Black Girl Vitamins does make one, and I'm plugging something here for you. You can get 20% off for your purchase using code NAVIGATE at checkout. I will post that here in the video below and also in the show notes. All right, you ready to dive in?
Let's dive in.
Let's do it. All right. So today we are going to talk about a show that I found to be very interesting. I did not think I was going to be as, I guess, I don't know if enamored is the right word or um, consumed with this show. I didn't think I was going to really like it, but I did like it. And that show is called My Next Act by Tia Mowry or Mowry or however you might say her name. I want to just make sure I'm saying it correctly. So I'm going to say Maury for today's episode. But we're going to talk about her show, My Next Act. I did write a blog on this when this show first aired. It came out a couple months ago and it wrapped up maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. I believe it was really recent that it wrapped up. And so today we're going to focus on kind of the first 1 to 3 episodes. And I'm really more interested in maybe that first episode because that first episode to me, it really hit a lot of areas and that we as women we go through. For those of you who may not know, Tia recently went through a divorce and she is trying to figure out her life now that she is a divorce mom of two. Her husband at the time is the only husband that she has ever been with. She's never dated anyone else. She was not allowed to date anyone until she got 18. And then when she turned 18, she met her husband. Her husband's name, ex-husband at this point, his name is Corey. And so she had to make the tough decision to walk away from this marriage, which was really hard. And she's really at this point as a 46-year-old woman now trying to find her next act. What does life look like for me? How do I find myself in the things that I like at this phase in life? And a lot of us women, when we're in midlife, and I'm not going to dive too much into this because this is going to be an episode, but sometimes we're trying to figure ourselves out and we're looking at this like, am I going through a midlife crisis? When a lot of times it may be that you're just trying to find your way. It may not be a midlife crisis. It might be, who am I outside of the kids, outside of the husband, outside of the friends, outside of the family, really outside of caring for everyone else. Who am I outside of this? And so that is an episode that is coming up. It's actually already recorded.
Nice.
It's sitting in the vault. It needs to come out. But again, your midlife besties are here to talk about this. And also, at any time, if you have any questions that you want us to answer on this show, you can send me an email at hello at navigating life after 40. That is 40. We've been watching this show, you and I, and there are so many layers to this episode, especially episode one. There were so many layers.
So many.
And I remember I did have to go back and watch it again before today's recording. But the first time I watched it, my heart, it just kind of hit home because so many things were relatable. Although I'm not divorced, I've never been married, but so many different things were relatable in terms of who am I outside of these things. I'm trying to find my way and would love to hear from you as well. Like, what are your thoughts on this show, the grief that she's going through? Because that's definitely what she's navigating during this time is trying to, navigate grief and co-parenting and loneliness and boundaries. It's so much, right? So what are your thoughts about this show?
Man, listen, Ronnie, when I started watching this show, I remember us just having a conversation briefly after we both had discovered we were watching it. And I was just like, the first episode was just filled with so much. It was such a heavy episode because there was so many like just ups and downs and like you were talking about just the relatability of being in a space where you're discovering, right? Like a lot of people, I don't like the word or the phrase midlife crisis because it's
Mm-hmm.
not a crisis. It literally is a discovery point. It's midlife discovery. It's midlife experimenting. It's not really, it doesn't have to be a crisis. And I just loved in that episode how it showed sort of the dynamics of her lows. Even in the first episode, I was like, okay, come on. This is the reality show you need to see because it
Yeah.
showed her lows. Like, it showed her crying, tears, like, full ugly crying, type situation over her grief, and having the very valid sadness around her grief, and the transition that she was going through. But then it also showed moments of joy with her being with her friends and them, kind of celebrating this transition, this new phase of her life where it didn't have to be just this super, sad. No, and I don't know that I'm all for like divorce parties and different things like that. Like I'm not mad at the people who do it, but I think the way her and her friends sort of celebrated her and celebrated her transition was just really nice. I did not love, and I know we're gonna get into this a little bit later. I did not love the way one of her friends was like, "Take the wedding dress and burn it." Like, girl,
Yeah,
that's where
I
the
didn't like
boundaries
that either,
came in.
girl. Yeah, I didn't like that either because I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
it's too soon for all of that. And
way too soon.
sometimes women, they keep their wedding dresses and they pass it down
Yeah.
to, their daughters, which she does have a daughter, or they keep it for whatever the reason might be. And I didn't like that either. I'm like, too soon, too soon, too
But
soon.
I loved though how Tia just she was like, listen, here's the boundary, right? What
Yeah.
you're not gonna do is sit here and be like, oh, throw the wedding dress away. She like, baby, this was made for me, specifically for me.
Hmm.
And this
Hmm.
was a part of a day that is still a part of my life. Like just because she's divorced doesn't mean that part of her life is completely erased. And I love how she sort of
Exactly.
embraces that too. She embraced the idea that, like, even when she was talking about like her rings and things like that, she's like, he gave these to me. It is important that I think about him when I see these rings because this was a gift from him. This was something that he gave me. It marked a change and a transition in my life. And so I just love the show was just good. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm
Yeah.
not completely done with it, but it's one of those that I definitely recommend to anybody in midlife. Like you said, even if you haven't been married, you're not, divorced, what have you, it shows so many dynamics of, what we need to see as women, I feel like, in this stage of life and how things can change. You can sort of reinvent. The dating part was really funny to me. Not even
Yes,
going
yes. That was hilarious, the dating part, just watching her go through that and then her friends having to step in and take
yeah,
over and get on the dating apps, and they met the men for her, which I really thought was kinda cool, and I thought to myself,
yeah.
as somebody that's single, I said, "Listen, I
Don't
need all
worry.
my friends to
I got your back. Listen, don't worry. We
need
will
my
find the
friends to
time.
be."
If you down
Yes,
for
I
it, we
need
will
y'all
find the
to.
time.
Yes, I might need y'all to like get on the apps and go and meet the guys and do the same thing and say, hey, we are gonna make sure that you are appropriate for our friend and ask all of the questions because dating is a lot and it's a headache, especially to continue to get to know people because everybody almost has the same questions when you're meeting them for the first time and you're just like I'm so tired of answering all of these questions. Can just the right person come and I just answer them this time and then you're just it and I don't have to answer these
Yeah,
questions anymore.
yeah,
So yeah, I like that. I really did like that they took the time to kind of just step up and say, we're going to take this over and we're going to find the right guy for you. The only thing that I did not like was the one friend who was really hard on the guy that she eventually did go out with and she
Charlie.
liked. I think what's his
Yeah,
name? Charles? I think his name was
Charles is his
Charles.
name. Yeah, that's his name. Here's
Yeah.
my take on the hard friend because I think I would be that. I would be the one who's asking the harder questions because I just think sometimes you got to get rid of the fluff. Like, as you can see with the one guy, I don't even remember his name, but his attitude was just bad. I
Yeah,
was
him,
like,
yeah.
that is where it was a saving grace for them to have done that because I could only imagine, Tia, she's a little more. Now, listen, Tia, if you hear this, please don't. I'm not judging you. I love this about you, but even on down to her laugh, she brings sort of this jovial, kind of goofy
Yeah.
energy, you know. And so I could just only imagine how she would clench her pearls if he had been speaking to her in a date the way that he was speaking to her friends. He was so condescending and just nasty. Like, for lack of better
Yeah.
words, it just was not a good look. And it's like, sir, I understand that you value yourself. Asking somebody or trying to make it a requirement that somebody say thank you to you because you called them beautiful, miss me with it. I get it, but we here for a purpose, and you doing the most. And so I was really
Yeah.
glad for the hard friend in that situation because at first he kind of was sounding like, okay, maybe he has his stuff together. Maybe he's, could be a candidate. And then cut to that scene and I was like, yeah, I'm so glad they did this for her.
Yeah, dude, you was tripping. You was
He
tripping.
was.
I did like Charles. I did kind of feel like Charles was moving too
Pouring it
fast.
on
I think
thick.
yeah, and in episodes after when they really, started dating and all of that stuff, one of the things my hope is for her is that she finds somebody that is not going to take advantage of her celebrity status. And as much as I like Charles, I kept picking up on that feeling because I know he has his nonprofit and things like that. And like I said, I could be wrong. I just kind of kept feeling like, he's gonna start asking, "Hey, you donate to my nonprofit," and those type of things. I don't want that for her. I really would like to see her get someone who doesn't take advantage of that celebrity status and just like her for her. Don't look at her as like this famous person that used to be on TV. Of course, you might be like, "Oh my God, it's Tia," when you first meet her, but don't let that be the center of the relationship that you're trying to develop with her. Treat her just like if you treat women good all of the time, then treat her like you would those women if you treat them good now. So yeah, that's the only thing. I One of the things that I did appreciate about him was the surprise that he tried to put on, which was the whole thing with the prom. He was trying
Yeah.
both neither one of them had proms. And so I thought that was really nice. And then I was just kind of disappointed, like, dang, Tia, you forgot. But then I
Yeah.
also understood she had to be a mom in that moment, and I do feel that the hardest shift, as someone who my parents divorced, and so I know what that's like, parents divorce and then they start dating someone new and then eventually they get married. Both of my parents got remarried the same year, like 2 or 3 months apart. It was wild.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I know what that's like, and so it's kinda hard for children, and then, of course, I wasn't as young as her daughter is, but I do think that that's gonna be a pretty challenging transition for her daughter because you can tell, like, "Mom, where are you going?" She's gonna always
Mhm.
want mom to be at home, and I think that's something that Tia's gonna have to work on as well. It's not just like, hey, having these boundaries with friends, but she's gonna also have to find a way of balancing putting herself first and her needs and her wants and also the needs and wants of her children and explaining to them, now that mommy and daddy's not together anymore, I will meet other people. I will go out on dates and things like that because if not, baby girl Cairo is gonna keep her in the house. She gonna keep
Either
her in the
that
house.
or is she gonna be the one to, because the way she has a big personality, that baby. And
Mhm.
bless your heart, Tia. She has it
Yeah.
honest. But I think it'll either be that, like you said, or it'll be, she's gonna be the one like, who are you? What you want with my
Yeah.
mama? Why are you here? Kind of thing. But I did notice though that she was doing her best to sort of balance that, to be okay, I gotta show up and be mommy and do all the things that I need to do here, be businesswoman, be a friend and, be able to hang out with the thing that I just that came to mind for me when I was looking at all of that and just watching that in the show was the idea that it feels like, and maybe it's just one sided over here, but it feels like we have to, and by we, I mean women, we have to do a lot of balancing. We have to have this mindset of like, oh, we have to figure out how to have it all. I don't know that I've ever heard a man say, I don't know how to balance having it all.
Never
Like,
heard that from a man either. How do you balance it all?
I've never heard it, right? And so it's like I was feeling for her, but also myself and every other woman, who has these multiple roles, even when you're single, too. I feel like you're trying to balance being a friend, being, a businesswoman or a career driven woman, and then also figuring out how to date and find the love of your life. If you haven't done that yet, you're juggling all of these different things. And I just don't hear men talk about that or present that way. And so it's like we are often in one of the episodes she was talking about just kind of feeling like she had to kind of hide her pain a little bit at different points.
Yeah.
And that it brought that up for me where I was like, you know, it's true. Like even if you're sick as a mom, as a wife, as a, just with all of these different roles, even when you're in a career, I feel like women, we feel this pull to show up anyway, right? To do it anyway, to put whatever it is that we're dealing with or feeling to the side to handle it anyway, to be there for the people that we feel we're responsible for. And I just feel like sometimes men, please don't come and get me because I'm just saying that
Listen, you better not come get her.
I'm just saying the fact stands, they really don't have that same pull.
Yeah.
They get sick from a cold and are just, I'm down. I can't,
They act like big babies.
it's like, I'm done. But for us, it's like, okay, I'm sick. I might have the full flu with a fever and the whole 9 yards, and here I am as a woman, as a mom, as a wife. Still, if everybody in the house is sick, who's the person that's typically still taking care of everybody? It's the mom, it's the woman,
Mhm.
you know? And so I was feeling for her a lot with that. And I was just so glad to see that she had, friends and family around her that were kind of at every little interval just saying, hey, it's okay. It's all right. Wherever
Yeah.
you are, however you're showing up, it's okay. We're going to help you show up, you know, differently. We're going to support you, right, in moving through this, because it was the moment that they were like planning her healing ceremony situation. I was sitting there, I was thinking, I'm watching her, and I was so proud also to see it displayed. First of all,
Yeah.
Tia, snaps, first of all up to you in a circle, however you want to have it,
Hey.
for setting up your space for journaling and showing it right to the world, showing that like this healing doesn't look like I signed the divorce papers, I'm done, I'm good to go, I'm going to go date, have fun, live my life, and all is well, right? Like the chapter is closed. And I think it brings back to the dynamics of grief and how grief follows us. It's not going to be a, one and done, even when it's around a relationship where someone is still alive and they are, moving about life and you still have some sort of connection with them. It's not a one and done. And she showed that very well in this show. But I loved, she had her candles lit. The vibes were vibing, when she was doing like she did like a vlog, and then she also did like, actual journaling. She was writing and she was letting her tears flow. She was allowing her sadness. And even in that moment, her friends were just like, hey, we see that you're sad. We see that you are, making this time for yourself to just grieve. And also, we want to try to introduce this other space to you, to try to help you move forward a little bit so that you don't get stuck. Because I think a lot of people get
Yeah.
afraid of that, and it can happen, right? Women who get divorced, especially, and I did not know, and I'm gonna pause after this, but I didn't know that there was a such thing called a gray divorce. Never heard of it until I was watching this show, and I was just like, I wonder what the prevalence is of women getting, divorced after being married for so long. Because have been seeing it with just around, just seeing like after 30 years, I've divorced my, spouse, or because she was with, Corey for 22 years total. They were married for 14 years, and then, she was with him for some years before. So it's like to go through that much of life with a person and be divorced. I don't know how we could expect for, women of a certain age, especially, to not have or start to develop challenges, right? Mental health challenges and the like, health challenges, all of the things. And she really showed how, you could end up developing, anxiety symptoms or, depression symptoms, things like that, moving through this type of transition. And so I just thought, just kudos to Tia for just being so vulnerable and transparent with her life, even though I don't know how they do it as celebrities.
Mhm.
Every
I
little
mean, you gotta
thing,
think though, they're human too, and I think
right.
that sometimes that we often forget is that celebrities are humans too, and they're not perfect people. They go through the same challenges we go through. They just have a little bit more money than most of us. And so, but yeah, I liked I like seeing her navigate this journey of grief and going through this process of having to let go, and also sitting in those moments when she was feeling lonely. She didn't try to let me go do something to feel this void. Let me sit in this. And she documented everything, like you said, via journaling, via video. She would sit there and she would talk about how she was feeling at that moment and just kind of giving us a glimpse into her journey and her life, because she didn't have to do that. But I appreciate that she did, because there are so many women who are going through the same thing. Even if you're not going through a divorce, there's probably some level of grief that you're going through. When you get to a point of midlife, a lot of times, again, we talk about the crisis, but it could be an evolution into something else. And sometimes women are trying to figure out, like, who am I at this point? And you might be grieving the person that you were. And so I remember sharing this on an episode about how I wasn't in my 40s yet. I was in my 30s, but I remember moving to another city, getting engaged, moved to this city with my then fiance. Thank God I didn't marry him, but then fiance. And I remember going through this challenge for years about who I was. And I was like, oh, when I was living in the previous city, I was like this, and I was this, and I was that, not knowing the whole time, I'm grieving the loss of who I was then. And so even when I went back to that city later on where I came from after everything was over, realized it was at that point that I realized, like, I was just dealing with some grief. I was going through a change and a different process, and I was grieving who I was then. However, how can I embrace this person that I'm becoming now? And I think that's the challenge a lot of women face, is trying to embrace who they are turning into, who they are evolving into. Is the word I should say. You hit on another really good point, and that's men. Men often, you're right, you don't hear them say, I gotta find a way to juggle it all. You don't really hear them say that. And here's what I've
Oh,
noticed about a lot of men, and some of y'all men may be like, oh, you wrong. Listen, that's okay. I'm just telling you based off my experience and the things that I've seen and the things that I have also witnessed with some of my friends and who have gone through these things as well. And that is, men typically know how to pause some things here and draw the line, put some boundaries over here so that they can focus on what's in front of them at the moment. And I'll give you an example. I had a friend that was dating this guy. She really liked him, and he was in grad school, and they really liked each other. But guess what? He was like, I'm not trying to get into nothing serious until I finish grad school.
hmm.
And that was his boundary. As much as he liked her and as much as she liked him, that's his boundary. And so and I've also paid attention to that myself with, previous guy that I dated in the past. And he was the same way. Whatever was present at the moment, that was his focus. And so that's how some men operate. And I'm not saying that that is a great thing, because it's not, because you could literally pass up a good woman because you put her on the shelf while you focus on, let me focus on grad school. If it's the right person for you, they're not going to be a distraction.
That's true. And you made a really good point though. Is they prioritize, right, themselves so much better than we do. I'm gonna
And
give y'all
women,
that,
yeah,
man. I'm gonna give y'all that. You clap it up for yourselves for just being really good at prioritizing yourself. And I don't know if that comes from, we could probably talk about that all day. I don't know if that comes from like just social norms of them having to be sort of, okay, well, I have to be focused on the things that I need to do because I'm the breadwinner. I have to do this, that, and the third. So I have to stay focused in this one lane because if I fail at this, then it breaks everything, type of thing. I don't know if it's that mentality that sort of builds it up or what it is, but I definitely know that that's a page that we could, as women, all
we
take
could
from
definitely
them.
take out of their book. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how do y'all, you prioritize yourselves? But I
Yeah.
think that's just women. We're nurturers.
Yes.
We, by nature, we're nurturers. We want to take care of everyone. But at taking care of everyone, it comes at the expense of us, not taking care of ourselves. And so we got to know how to continue to fill our cup and take care of us so that we can be better for other people, so that we can know how to set boundaries and have really good friendships and relationships, and how to manage the kids and the job and all of that. And that is something that we're not really good at, but we have to get good at. And I'm hoping that, excuse me, I'm hoping that as I can't continue this journey of supporting women in midlife that maybe I'll crack the code. I don't know. Women, I hope I'll crack the code somewhere
I
so
hope
that
so
you
too.
guys can understand how to really put a lot more emphasis on yourself, a lot more focus on you and what you need, and not find and let go of the guilt in that, because there comes guilt. There's a mommy guilt, there's the daughter guilt if you're a caregiver. There is all sorts of things that you deal with, and it all relates goes back to like this guilt in these different areas. But you have to know how to take care of you first. So I'm curious to know, speaking of taking care of you first, what would you say? Like, how do you find, or really, how do you prioritize self-care for yourself? Like, are you good at putting yourself first before your family and friends? How do you
Hmm.
prioritize self-care?
Listen, y'all, I'm gonna be a whole human with you right now today. Let me just level set with y'all right now. Okay. As a human who is still learning um the skill of prioritizing myself, I am slowly but surely getting on that road, right? Like even today, for example, we had this, set out weeks in advance, that we were going to do this, and something else came up. And it was like, well, I could have said, you know what? I'm going to take the time that I was planning to take for myself to do something that I enjoy, and that is talking to my midlife bestie over here. And I could have pulled away from that and said, I have to prioritize them, or else, everybody's going to be upset with me. And I'm not even going to hold you. A moment of guilt, right, is going to come into the frame no matter what. I think as moms and wives and mothers and all of the roles that we play, I think what's important is to be able to learn how to allow the grief and then let it move, right? So acknowledge it, let it be there. Hey, hi grief. I mean, not grief, but guilt. Hi guilt. I see you. We see each other here, and you don't get to stay, right? Like I'm gonna need you to go ahead and move over to the side over here, because what I'm doing for myself right now is filling my cup so that at a later time, right, I can give more of myself to my family and to, whatever other things that there are that, are my obligations or that I feel obligated to. So in a nutshell, what I'm going to say is I am still learning. One of the ways that I am learning is to allow the guilt and then let it float by like leaves on a stream, is what they say, at times. And then other times, I'm just, again, telling myself, hey, this is for me. And the reason that I'm doing this is so that I can feel just a little bit more of my cup or my battery to be able to be there for the folks that I love in a
Yeah.
better way so I can show up more fully. So, definitely is hard. And so, ladies, let me just tell y'all right now, please don't be hard on yourself about it. It is very difficult. It is not easy. And anybody who tells you that it is, I don't know what they got going on. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not judging you, but I just don't know what you got going on. if,
Right. You got
if
something
you
else
can
going
do
on because
it.
it's not.
It's not
It's
easy,
not
but it is a
easy.
learned skill. It is a skill that you can learn, and it is something that you can get better and better at as time goes along. And I think it
Yeah.
just, again, it starts with how we're talking to ourselves about it. It starts with acknowledging, recognizing and not acknowledging those emotions, and learning again to reiterate to ourselves that this is not just me being selfish, and being selfish is okay, because sometimes you need to be, right? Like, I think we get this, there's a script that's running somewhere that's been told us that being selfish is terrible, right? It's not a good thing. We just talked about how, men have a tendency to kind of move in that way. Okay. I gotta finish medical school. I ain't got time for what you
Yeah.
got going on over there. You cute and everything, but there will be another one, or we'll come back to it, sort of thing. We, though, I feel like have a very hard time with just being selfish. To us, a lot of the times it has a negative connotation, and it shouldn't, because
Yeah.
selfishness is important from time to time. It just is. If you're not
Yeah.
about yourself, being for everybody else is going to kill you at some point. And I'm just keeping it a buck.
Yeah. I agree. And thank you for sharing your approach to self-care and just being honest about that. I would say for me, I don't know what is happening over here. I'm need to cut the heat on or something. I don't know. It's something attacking
Oh
my
no.
throat. But I would say for me, I try to give myself at least an hour a day at minimum. At the top of the morning when it's quiet. Yes, I live alone, but it seems to just still be quiet and things are still when it's early. And that's me and that's my time and that's how I care for myself. I think a lot of times we also look at self-care as these things that are often, like exercise
Hmm.
and, going to the spa and stuff like that. But it's also about how you choose to show up, you know, what you choose to accept, spaces that you choose to allow yourself to be in, even down to what you choose to listen, because everything it can have an effect on your mood, how you change. And so you really have to be mindful of how you care for yourself overall. It's not just the pampering stuff, it's also the mental stuff, the emotional stuff. And how you care for yourself is definitely how you want other people to care for you. And that's a reminder that I always have to give myself as a single woman that's out here trying to date in these streets is don't ask for anything that I'm not. And then two, which sometimes that's kind of hard to do,
It is.
But two, the most important for me is making sure I'm caring for myself the way that I want the man in my life to
Yes,
care
it
for
is.
me because he's gonna watch that.
Yep.
And if he sees that, oh, she buys herself flowers every week.
Hmm.
She must like flowers. Oh, she, is not going to let me just come at the last minute and invite her out on this date. No, she says, no, I already have plans. So it's things like that. How do you care for yourself? How do you set those boundaries in place? And, how you're showing up. And that is how others are going to treat you.
I love
All
that.
right.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say too, I think that, you mentioned like self-care doesn't have to be like this checklist of stuff, right? And I really love that you brought that to the forefront because another thing that I'm gonna say to all of y'all, look at me, okay, moms and wives and just women in general. Sometimes self-care is doing nothing. Absolutely zero things on your
Absolutely.
list.
Yes. Doing nothing.
Sometimes it's just about rest. Sometimes it's
Hmm.
about crying, right? Finding you a movie and letting your tears flow because you haven't had the space to do that. Like you were mentioning, just allowing those emotions. Sometimes it's about just saying, what am I going to choose to do or not do on my list for this week? What can I say
Hmm.
no to? Saying no
Yeah.
is self-care as well, right? Like,
And a
so
complete
I love that you
sentence
had
that doesn't require an explanation. I know a lot of you,
that
y'all probably like, "What?" Yes, no is a complete sentence, and it does not require an explanation. Look at me when I say this. Imma say it again.
one more time.
No is a complete sentence and does not require an explanation, because
Zero.
oftentimes we are always trying to explain ourselves when we say no. Sometimes it's just no.
That's it.
It just
That's
is
it.
what
That's
it
all.
is.
That's it. That's all. That's it.
That's it. So, I don't know. I guess let me move to the next part before we move into our wrap up here. Because I think that I don't know if that just kind of shut the show down and just like,
Right.
we had to sit in that for a minute because that is the truth. No is a complete sentence. It really is. And that is a struggle for a lot of people to understand and to begin to practice. You don't have to be rude with it. You just say no.
Just say no. That's it. And I think the thing about it that moves us back into that guilt place, right? A lot of folks will have this guilt that's showing up when they're deciding, like, no, I don't want to do that thing, or I can't do that thing. So that is where I think a lot of the explanation comes from because we're feeling so guilty about setting that boundary with people. And at the same time, your boundary is for you and for other people. They need to learn to hear no. It's okay, they will figure it out. A lot of
They will
time,
figure it out.
it will get figured out. If you weren't here, they would figure it out. And the thing
They
about
will
it is,
figure it out.
not saying no can lead us to that place. Stress
Yeah.
and, overdoing things for other folks, all of that can lead us to a place where we're not even going to be a part of the equation for them to be asking questions. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. And y'all, listen, she said it. It's a complete sentence. We might have to put that on some kind of merchandise at some point. And no,
Yes, no
it's the complete sentence. Period.
is a complete sentence. No, period, or just no,
That's it.
period.
Just no.
That's it. All right, guys. So I'm going to transition into a did you know this moment. As we saw in, if you have not watched Tia shows My Next Act, I highly encourage you guys to do so. At least tackle that first episode. Watch that first one. You will find so many gems and eye openers just in that first one, especially as she talks about her friendships. And so I want to share a fun fact with you, or did you know fact, which is also a part of my segments in season 4. Did you know that according to studies, women in midlife often report stronger friendships later in life, even after experiencing periods of loneliness? Did you know that?
I did not know that, but I will say that we are evidence of that. So there you go.
Yes, there it is. Because we met during midlife and we've been rocking and rolling now for a
Ever
few little
since
years. Yeah, ever
we
since.
have,
Ever
we
since. That's my
have.
friend. I box you. You mess with her. All right. And as we get to the end, because this has been so fun today, I want to just leave you guys with a moment of zen. I know the zen has probably should have been no is a complete sentence, but I'm going to end with this quote, and it's a piece of wisdom that reflects the things that we discussed today. And that is sometimes we have to let go of the life we planned to embrace the life that's waiting for us. And I want to
Mhm.
invite you all to do that. Yes, that's a message within itself. And so I want to invite you guys to reflect on that and how you also can embrace your next act the same way that Tia is doing in her life, the same way that we are doing in our lives. So I invite you to do that. Create and also create the space for what you want to see happen. Any
Yes.
last comments before we get wrap up here?
The only thing I'm gonna add here is just I wanted to bring us just quickly back around to this speed dating that she did. And I don't remember what the dude's name was, but like I think his name might have been Peter or something like that. But when I just want to say when he showed up, this show also has a lot of funny moments, okay? A lot of funny moments, and her laugh just makes me laugh. I don't know if
Yeah.
she's ever heard that before, but the way she laughs makes me laugh.
Yeah.
But when Peter showed up at that table, baby, I was on the entire floor, okay? And I thought, you know, I just feel really, I was feeling proud of her, even in that moment of just letting go of what she thought life needed to be at that moment or how she thought she needed to go about dating or what have you, and just trying new experiences. That was something new for her. She had never done, speed dating, and dating, in and of itself was a little, still new for her as well. I'm sure she dated, her husband throughout their marriage, but it's different when you're, getting to know different people. And so another thing that I just would add to what you were sharing is don't be afraid to try new things. It may, we're going to have our opinions about it. It's going to be scary, all of it. It will be scary. And trying new things informs us. I think she was kind of mentioning that, like, okay, now I know differently, right? I learned something about myself in all of this. And so I think it's really important to just try new things, even if it's some strange speed dating with some characters where you have to
Yes.
definitely draw a line and say, no, you can't have my number today. I'm cool, type of
Yeah.
thing. Try new things. You never know
Yeah.
what could happen.
Yeah. You never know. I agree with that. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Ronnie, your host, and Ronnie, my co-host of the Midlife Besties Hangout today. All right. Again, if you have not watched this show, please check it out. It comes on WeTV. I will also leave a link in the show notes and also down below on your screen. Also, follow up with me on social media at Navigating Life After 40, and that is 40 on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and also YouTube. So you're watching on YouTube. You're there now. And then also, again, if you have any questions, please submit those to hello@navigatinglifeafter40.com. And if you can do me a huge favor, please, on your favorite podcast platform, can you leave me a review? It helps us to reach more women who are trying to navigate midlife, who are looking for support and community, and just like you. And so it also helps us to rank higher in the charts. And I need you guys to leave me a review. I would appreciate it so, so very much. Until next time, the Midlife Besties are
Signing out.
out. See y'all later. That's a wrap for this episode of Navigating Life After 40. I hope you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. If you love what you're hearing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. This helps me to reach more amazing women like yourself who are trying to navigate this amazing life. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep living your best life.